All right, welcome everyone to the Black Gould and Associates training on the new COBRA laws and changes for Arizona. I'm Billy Gould with BGA, and I'm happy to welcome you to our event. Before I introduce our speaker, I want to point out that you're welcome to post any questions as we go, and we'll periodically stop and address them throughout our discussion. Black Gould and Associates has partnered with HR Services now for several years. Their outstanding benefit compliance solutions for such things as Compliance Basic Plus, SPD Wraps, 125 POPs, ACA reporting, and 5500 reporting. HR Services also provides HR solutions such as employee handbooks, HR support packages, supervisor training, and HR compliance audits. Starting in 2018, HR Services now includes benefit administration for HRAs, HSAs, FSAs, COBRA, making them a one-stop solution from any of your clients' needs. Our presenter today, Ken Spencer, started at HR Services in 2004 and has worked in the benefits compliance and human resource management for over 25 years. Ken has a master's degree in human resources with a bachelor's degree in finance and marketing. Mr. Spencer taught at Westminster College for 8 years and 1 year for the University of Phoenix. Ken has presented for Compliance Corner for NAHU and for many other organizations across the country. So please welcome Ken Spencer.
Thank you, Billy, and welcome everyone. We're so glad that you're able to join us here today. We're going to walk through this Senate Bill 1217 and hopefully give you a good feel for what you need to start letting your clients know about regarding this continuation coverage, COBRA coverage for folks. As many of you are aware, this takes place as of the first of the year. So as you're going through doing your open enrollments now's the time to let them know. So you're going to need to let everyone know that if typically COBRA did not apply to them, and as you know under federal law, so who's affected by this bill under federal law, anyone who had 20 or more employees, they were covered under the federal COBRA laws. Well, now in the state of Arizona, anyone with 1 employee or more and is offering group coverage, they're going to have to offer continuation coverage, and so this changes things. It gives a lot of it includes a lot more people now. A lot of you have some of these smaller groups who are being impacted by this. So let's talk about some of the changes and some of the differences here. So who is covered? As I've mentioned, under federal law it was 20 or more, and it did cover the employees and their dependents. Now under the Arizona law, it's any size group and it will cover the employees and their dependents as well under this. Eligibility. So under federal law, employees must have been enrolled in the insurer's group plan and when they were working. So at any point that you could have someone join for 1 day under federal COBRA, and we'd have to offer them continuation coverage. Under Arizona law, here's one difference. If they're not on the plan for at least 90 days or more, we don't have to offer them coverage. So this is a key difference here. So again, 90 days is the rule of thumb there. So if they were on plan for 90 days, then they would be offered continuation. Okay, so when does coverage end? So the coverage would last very similar for federal and new Arizona law. As you probably know, for those of you who have participants in other states, you probably know that every state's different with their continuation laws. Interesting, Arizona has made theirs 18 months, which is the same as the federal COBRA laws. Typically 18 months for anyone who's lost coverage due to termination of employment and most of the other types of qualifying events. But then there's the extension that someone can get up to 36 months for something like divorce or death, those kinds of things that are happening. The same is true with Arizona law. Arizona law does also cover for some things such as military activation. So if someone is active in military, that could be extended as well. Okay. All right, let's talk about some of the requirements of notification. Again, you're going to see some very similar things for the Arizona versus the federal. So those of you who are already familiar with federal COBRA, you pretty much know a lot of this already. So if I'm when an enrollee must be notified, they must be, when they first join the plan, you'll need to give them a general notice. Now, there's a number of reasons we do that. One is it's the law, but two is if we don't give them notification initially when they're on a plan, they may have situations that occur at their family and for their dependents that you may not be aware of, such as somebody turning age 26 and not covered by the plan anymore, or going through divorce or something like that. By giving them that general notice, you put the responsibility onto them, and that informs them that, hey, you need to let us know that if you've had a change in any of these statuses, otherwise it's your responsibility. So that's one of the reasons we do that, and it is also required. Now, of course, if there's qualifying event notices, so the enrollee must be notified if they've had a qualifying event within 30 days. So the qualifying event written letter to, could be a written letter to their last known address. If you get that to them within 44 days, that written letter, that meets that 30-day requirement. They allow a certain amount of time for you to pull together the written notices and the letters. And that's another thing we do with the general notice is we tell everyone, make sure you let us know if you have an address change, so that that way you can always send it to the last known address. And I would do this, I would mail that, mail the letter to them, mail that notice to them. And we'll talk in a moment. Most of you are going to want to advise your employers to use an outsourced firm to do this, so they're not taking on the risk and the responsibilities. Employers have 30 days to notify the plan administrator. So use the insurance company. So all of a sudden, if someone is not eligible on coverage, they've got 30 days to do that. 60 days if it's the loss of coverage is due to divorce or a change in status by a dependent. And the administrator has 14 days after the notice from the employer to notify the person who is entitled to the coverage. So after an employee sends out the notice to the employee for the qualifying event, the employee has 60 days to notify the employer that he or she wants the coverage. A little bit more on notifications. So the notice to employees, notice to the qualified dependent, unless the employer knows there's a dependent who's not living with them. So when they send it out to the employee and that last known address, that covers all of the dependents as well. Unless I'm aware as an employer that the other dependents are other places, and then I do have to notify them as well. If the employer fails to provide notice and you're not meeting those requirements, it is defined in this law that the enrollee has 120 days after the date of the notice of election to select coverage. So that gives them an extended time period to elect unless you follow the requirements. The enrollee must accept coverage within 60 days, and they're going to accept the program. Now, there's certain things that should go out on a notification. The department has mentioned they're going to come out with a draft notification. I've not seen it yet. I would expect it to be out soon. We'll make that available to you, and Black Gold & Associates will get this out to you as well, when that's available. But some of the basic things that have to be included in there: the information about their right to continue, the amount, cost of the premium. And by the way, and I'll show you in a moment here, but the premium can, on federal COBRA, it's usually 2%, plus 2%. So full cost plus 2. You'll see on the with Arizona, they can charge up to 5%. The interesting change. Also, defining the process and the deadlines to elect coverage, the dates required for the initial ongoing payments, what happens if they don't make payment. Some of those things all have to be included in this notification. But again, they're going to provide us with one. We'll make that available to you. But if you're using an outsourced firm, then you won't even have to worry about that. All right, so the qualifying event notices, what type of events qualify. Most of you are familiar with all the federal ones. So you've got everything from loss of coverage due to termination, reduction in hours, divorce, death, Medicare, all of these bankruptcy, all of these things come into play. The same is true for Arizona. So there's really no differences in the qualifying events. I have a question that just came in, so I'm going to pause for just a moment. The question is, does this apply to churches? So this is applicable. It does not apply to organization, or sorry, to government or churches. They always tend to exclude themselves here, and I'm just double checking something here. Yeah, so government and churches are excluded from this. I mentioned that the federal law, historically, when you look at the cost of premiums, is the full cost plus 2%, and that this new change here would allow up to 5%. Doesn't mean that everyone will charge that, but they could charge up to 5%. I don't know about you, but me personally, I think that most employers prefer that someone not take the COBRA. So by them making it a little bit more expensive, it does add in an incentive and reason for them not to join. Question came over. It asked about can the employer just send out the qualifying event notice and not bother with the general notice? One of the things I mentioned before, it's not a good practice to miss that general notice because of the risk that you take upon, the employer takes upon themselves if they're self-administering. That is, that's because you want to put the responsibility back on the employees and their dependents to notify you if a change has occurred that you might not know about. Otherwise, you keep that responsibility. So I would never miss that general notice. I think it's important to do that. But if you're using a third-party administrator to do this, they're going to take care of that general notice and the other notices and such for you. Another question about nonprofits. Nonprofits would be included and covered under this. So it's only those churches and government are the excluded. Another question that came over, it says, does the Arizona law supersede federal law on the cost COBRA administrations or for over 20? Great question. So the way the laws work in states and federal law, states have to follow at least federal law. And so now with this change in Arizona, this could add in additional, so states can add in additional things, but they have to add in at least what the federal law had. So my understanding is that anyone doing COBRA in the state of Arizona, even for larger groups with 20 or more, would now be able to charge up to 5% instead of just the normal 2%. So most of these other changes that have gone on are very similar to the federal. So as long as it's not less than the federal, then that's the way that works there. Another question that came over. Please answer questions at the end. Okay. Sending the general notices via first-class mail, okay. Yes. They will, and by the way, our discussion and training today is we won't go over 30 minutes. And so I know we've had a request to somebody say and answer the questions at the end. And I will come back and we'll answer the rest of the questions now at the end here. But I did want to answer this last other question here, and then I'll stop. But please keep your questions coming. We'll come to them at the end, and then anyone who wants to jump off are welcome to do that. Is sending the general notices via first-class mail okay? Okay, and I did mention that. Yes, that is a perfectly acceptable method of sending the notices. In fact, I am at a point now because literally there are no other major differences for us to walk through. I am at a point for questions, so please do send over the rest of your questions. And while you're doing that, I did want to point out just a couple of other things here. So I apologize for the little 10-second commercial, because if you would like help with this, we know that we want to empower you with resources as you go out to assist folks with. So there's always the question is, should I do self-administration of COBRA? We don't recommend it. COBRA is a maze of rules, required notices, procedures that's critical. It's very easy for organizations to get themselves in trouble. They miss a notification, they don't get a letter out right, they don't handle the premiums correctly, they terminate somebody too early. There's huge risk there if somebody gets that wrong. So we recommend even the smaller groups, even though it seems, kind of meaning, why should they outsource it? We still recommend that they do. Now we're HR service, and we're also part, so there's two of us together here. We're all a sister company of ours who handles our benefit administration, called B3PA, stands for Benefit Third Party Administrator. So our division of, of course, they do the COBRA administration as well as FSA, HRA, and HSAs. And we've been doing this with our powered by firm COBRA management systems for over 20 years. We have a fast implementation. We get somebody set up within a week. Very high service, high dedicated account manager, state-of-the-art systems. We also are integrated with many other systems as well, such as Employee Navigator. So if a lot of you are using that tool, that's available out there. So I'll show you a few pricing and things here in just a moment as well, but I want to come back to some other questions. Let's see. Okay, when does the Arizona law take effect? And so that is the first of the year. So January 1, 2019. They asked a question, so what are your fees for administration for smaller groups? And I will come to that in just a moment. I'll show you that on my next slide here. Is it correct to assume that Arizona law is to be followed by employers with 1 to 19 employees and then federal law for 20? So that's a great question. My understanding of the way this rule is that because they're so similar, if you're following the federal law for the 20 or more, you're gonna comply with this. It's just that there's a few other things you could do as well, such as charging up to 5%. So there's that option there that's available. I've had people ask if we'd make the presentation available. Yes, we will, and it is also being recorded. So we'll make a link available if there's others at your office or anyone else that you wanted to walk through with us for as well. There's a comment, I'm going to read this. It is my understanding that UHC is doing the COBRA stuff for free for groups with them. And if so, is there any benefit using you compared to their free service? It kind of depends. I don't know what their free service includes. Sometimes there's limits and restrictions. They may not send out the general notice. They may not send out the qualifying event notices. Or there's my experiences is usually you get what you pay for in life, and so I'm not sure if that would if free is always free. There's usually some cost there, or the service may not be quite as good. I'm going to show you just a couple of other things along with if you did want to utilize our service and assistance with this. So the cost of ours, typically, we charge $1 per participant, or per eligible participant per month, up with a $45 minimum. So if groups come on our plan, at a smaller group, and they're a group of 2 or a group of 10, they're going to pay a higher fee there. But because anyone who's working with Black Golden Associates, we do offer some special discounts. So it's 50 cents per eligible participant per month, and we only have a $25 minimum. So that will really help for some of these smaller groups to be able to get in with that. Let me come back. I've had a few other questions come over. Must all groups offer this effective January 1 or at renewal? They must begin offering this at January 1, 2019, not at renewal. So even if so you may have some who are not renewing until they're further into their plan. You're going to have to get further into 2019. You're going to have to get hold of them now or soon and let them know that as of the first of the year, they need to begin offering continuation rights to participants with 1 or more. So that is not something you can wait on. Another question. So the carriers have a denotation for groups under 20 for the, great question. I would expect that all of the carriers are going to be making adjustments in their forms for continuation coverage, where they'll likely have you indicate, well, of course, they'll know the size. So I'm not sure if they'll have a box that you'll check that'll say the size of the group, but they're very much aware of these requirements, and they will be providing and meeting the requirements as well. So I'm sure that we'll see that coming into play. Okay, so let's see, another question. Also, it says UHC requires employers to generate and mail all notices. Does HR Services generate and mail the notices? Yes. So we will be sending out all of the notices for eligibility and such, along those lines. I'm going to do some double checking on the when this is eligible. My understanding was, I'm sorry, when it's effective. My understanding is that all groups would start as of the first of the year. I'm hearing from a couple that have sent over saying that they thought that it was at renewal. So I'm going to double check that, and if we find out something different, we will send this out through Billy and Black Gold to make sure that we let you know. Again, our understanding was this takes place as of the first of the year, and I thought that it was implemented for everyone as of that time. So if we find out something different, we will sure let you know right away. So we will verify that. A couple of other questions that have come over. Is there an additional $3 notice fee in addition to the monthly fee? So the notice fee is only if we're doing mass mailing things. So if we're doing a mass mailing fee, that would come into play, or if we're doing a full packets and things, then that would come into play there. So pretty much what you see here are the fees. What I would suggest, we'll actually reach out just to make sure if there's any follow-up questions that anyone has, and also to see if we can assist you in any way with the COBRA administration or any of your other administration or solution needs. And I just also wanted to briefly mention, so HR Service, as Billy mentioned in the introduction, not only do we help with the administration of these things, we also help with benefit compliance. So we have tools to help you easily take care of your summary plan description wrap requirements, summary material modifications, notices. We have a compliance assessment, a dashboard tool, 125 premium only plan documents. We have a storage and delivery tool. We help with legal alerts. We also do ACA reporting, which is another thing that's kind of knocking at your door as you're going into Q4. You need to let employers who are applicable large employers, meaning they have 50 or more last year, that they have to do the 1095 reports out to all full-time, anyone who was full-time at any point during the year, and then they have to submit the 1094 form with copies of the 1095s to the IRS. And so far, they've not extended the dates. We don't know if they will. They have the last couple of years. But if they're not extending the dates, if you're using an outsourced firm like us to help with the ACA reporting, you're going to want to identify clients who need that and have them connect up and hold their slots soon, because we're going to fill up. And I'm sure any other providers are going to fill up as well. The other thing I would mention is if you have self-funded plans with the employer sizes that are less than 50, they also have to provide a 1095B form and then submit in a 1094B with copies of 1095Bs to the IRS. So self-funded or the applicable large employers have that requirement. The other thing I would mention is we also do 5500 reporting, so if we can help you with that. And as Billy mentioned, we do HR solutions. So we have a whole division that takes care of things like employee handbooks, HR support, help desk, supervisor training, all of those kinds of things. So we are a one-stop solution. So if we can help you with any of these things, please let us know. I'm going to list our contact information on here, but as I mentioned, we will be reaching out again just to make sure that you have everything you need. We'll provide you with copies of the materials, the slides, as well as the training that we talked about today. And then I am going to verify, because there was that question about when that started from someone else that said they had read something different. So I'm going to validate that, and I'll let you know that when that comes out. But you can reach us at 833-685-8400 extension 1 or solutions@hrserviceinc.com. My personal email is just ken@hrserviceinc.com. And this is our website here. I have had a couple of other questions come over, so I just want to make sure we're addressing everything. Let's see. What about groups that have more than 20 employees but are not subject to federal COBRA yet? So pretty much anyone who meets the requirements of, if they have group plans and they have group benefits and they have one or more, they're going to be covered under this Arizona continuation coverage law. So everyone would be there unless they're excluded because they're a government entity or a church. So everyone would be covered. Let's see, another question that says, are there any apparent penalties for not offering Arizona COBRA? I've not read specific penalties. I'm sure there will be. They like any law, they need to put teeth in it sometimes to get employers to take it serious. Certainly, one of the obvious penalties could be that what if you didn't offer someone coverage and they went and had a heart attack or something serious that went on, an organ transplant, they create this multi-million-dollar thing, and then they come back to the employer and says, you did not give me my right to continuation coverage. Now I'm going to sue you and force you to cover me and to cover this. And now, do you think the insurance provider is going to take it then? Probably not. And so it's going to come back to the employer where they'll have that liability. So for me, that's enough teeth in it. I don't need a penalty to know that that risk alone is so huge that you would want to make sure that you were on top of that. So, right. Let me see if there's other questions here. Okay. So it looks like we've got all the questions that have come through here today, and we are at our 30-minute mark. I just wanted to thank everyone so much for participation and attending here today. Please let us know if we can help answer further questions for you regarding this. We can help you with the administration of this or any of the other admin tools or the other compliance areas. We'd love to be your partner. Billy, did you have anything else that you wanted to say? I'll turn it back over to you.
No, thanks, Ken. I just wanted to appreciate the opportunity for you to present this. Again, Black Gould & Associates will take a recording of this and we will blast it out and post it on the webinar section of our website. Give us a couple days to get that over and loaded, and we'll send a blast out to all our brokers of the presentation so we can review it at your leisure, or anyone that missed it or anyone else in your office that wants to review it can review it at your leisure. But thank you for the presentation, Ken. That's all I have for today.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.